We don't have all the facts yet, but we understand that there has been a major explosion at the World Trade Center.
All of a sudden, we had a loud explosion, and I was thrown back about, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet.
We immediately knew something was wrong because of how the building shifted.
I saw people in Tower 1 breaking windows, and you could see the smoke coming out of the windows, and people were screaming.
That smoke reached us so fast.
That's when I started hearing the glass breaking from One World Trade. All you heard was that it was falling.
The scene here is chaotic. EMS, fire, and police personnel have been walking up dozens of flights of stairs in order to reach and rescue stranded office workers.
The stairwell was dark. It was just smoke. When I couldn't see the steps, my heart was pounding.
I'm a single parent, and all I thought of was, oh boy, who's going to take care of my kids?
As you can see, there seem to be a great number of injured people. We're trying to confirm whether anyone has died.
Your safety can really depend on knowing how to get out of a building in an emergency.
The most precious thing you have is your life.
You must listen and take it seriously, because it's not a joke.
I take fire drills much more seriously.
Panic is the worst thing that you could do. And if you know where you're supposed to go, it lessens the panic. If you have a route, if you have a drill, you know exactly where you're going.
The World Trade Center bombing was a tragedy on a gigantic scale. Most of us will never forget the sight of dazed and injured office workers as they staggered from the building. These people all arrived at their jobs that morning with no reason to expect that day would be different from any other. This example is a dramatic one, but the principles that came into play for the building evacuation were the same as they would have been if an overloaded electrical socket had started a fire. No one can anticipate a dangerous situation, regardless of whether it's the result of an accident or a willful act of terrorism. But we can improve our awareness. We can take advantage of all the safety practices available to us. And we can learn what to do if we're ever caught in a safety emergency. Many of us think of our offices as a second home. 85% of office workers say that they spend 3,000 hours per year at their place of work and only 2,000 hours at home. Every day in offices just like yours, people are seriously injured due to common workplace hazards. Your office probably doesn't look like a danger zone, but it may not be as safe as you think it is. This safety awareness module has been designed to help you look at your office environment in a different way. We'd like you to take off the blinders, learn to spot the little traps, the loose carpet, the drawer left open, the overloaded socket. They may not look dangerous, but everyday office hazards can cause serious injuries. NYNEX wants you to be safe, whether you do your work aloft on a utility pole or sitting at a workstation. Work smart. Think safety first. Next time you're in your office, take a look around at all the paper. If your filing system's anything like mine, there's a stacking phase that happens first. Stacks on the desk, on the floor, on any other available surface. And then there's all those other stacks that have nothing to do with you. So you've got plenty of fuel. Now all we need is a spark. Are there ever enough outlets? Is the cord ever long enough? It's a reality. Very few of us work in spaces designed to accommodate all the equipment we use. Now, we've chosen humor to illustrate a few of the points in our video, but I think you know that there's nothing more serious than our message. Fire hazards are a reality. It's not enough to just be careful. We have to work to eliminate those hazards from our daily lives. Overloaded outlets are a major hazard. Streamline your electronic needs as much as possible and keep paper and other combustibles well away from outlets. If you need additional outlet space, make sure you use a fuse-protected power strip. Extension cords are meant for temporary use. All plugs, wires, and extension cords should be in good condition and have the appropriate rating for the job. All extension cord plugs should be 3-pronged or grounded. And be sure to keep cords and wires out of the way so that people don't trip on them. Many of the materials used in the construction of NYNEX offices are specially treated to retard fires. If the integrity of these materials is breached, the fire retardant ability is impaired and may constitute a hazard. If you see an unrepaired gap in fire retardant material, notify your building manager or supervisor. Keep all your desktop appliances like individual coffee makers and warming trays away from paper and other flammables, and always be sure to turn them off. Space heaters are an easy source of ignition and an extreme fire hazard and are not allowed in NYNEX facilities. If you are uncomfortably cold, check the temperature guidelines for your building and speak to your building manager if they're not met. Frayed, flaky, or worn-out plugs or wires should be professionally repaired or replaced. Never attempt to fix any part of an electrical appliance or outlet yourself. In the kitchen or lounge area of your office, keep microwaves, toasters, and other electric appliances away from the sink and other sources of water. Depending on local codes, ground fault circuit interrupter type outlets should be used in these areas. Also, make sure that paper products aren't stored near appliances and that a fire extinguisher is readily available. Most offices keep some combustible products on hand, such as paint and cleaning fluid. These should be kept to a bare minimum and stored in a fire-rated room or cabinet. If you're not certain, contact your building's fire warden.
We have to get the people from the second floor and the third floor.
Every building that houses NYNEX personnel should have an individual or union management team responsible for customizing a fire safety plan for that location. That director or team is also responsible for assigning floor wardens and searchers. Most plans call for 1 warden per floor, but if the population is small enough, all employees may be expected to act as wardens. The floor warden is responsible for conducting monthly inspections and for knowing all the people on the floor. The warden's monthly inspections should cover doors, lights, signs, extinguishers, and intercom systems. If you have any concerns about any type of potential fire hazard in your office, notify the warden immediately. His or her name should be posted. If your building does not have a fire warden, notify your supervisor. The key role of searchers is to make sure that everyone has heard the alarm and has started to evacuate. Searchers will check conference rooms, toilets, storage areas, and all other areas where workers may be located apart from their workstations.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. The most important thing that we have is our fire safety program. The only way we can keep that up to date is have constant drills and constant repetition. The repetition is education, right? And the more repetition you have on your drills and what you should do, hopefully in an emergency situation you would know exactly what to do.
The moment that you see a fire is not the time to figure out who to call, how to escape, and how to use a fire extinguisher. A fire should trigger an automatic procedure that's been planned and practiced. You won't want to rely on choice and invention in the face of an emergency. Know where your fire extinguishers are located and what type they are, and learn how to use them. Always call the fire department before you try to use a fire extinguisher. Extinguishers should be used only on small contained fires with your back to an escape route. Never attempt to fight a fire if it's large or spreading, or if you're not sure how to use the extinguisher. The fundamentals of fire extinguisher use are reviewed in the video training program Fight or Flight. It's recommended that all NYNEX employees view it. If you haven't seen it, ask your supervisor about it.
All right, second floor, good.
Learn your building's evacuation plan. The plan should be posted on all floors in a central location. You should learn 2 different evacuation routes and alternates for every stage in each plan. Evacuation drills are recommended at least twice every year, and they're mandatory at least annually. Make sure you participate. The local fire warden should be made aware of all people who are physically challenged or otherwise compromised. A buddy system will be set up for evacuations. All fire exits should be marked with a sign that remains visible when the lights are out. Learn the location of at least the primary and secondary fire exits. and make sure that all exits are unlocked and unblocked. In the face of a fire, it's easy to panic and become disoriented. Visibility may be poor, the rooms may be filled with smoke, and the only light may be emergency lighting. Under these conditions, it's critical that the paths to the exits remain clear. Keep halls and walkways free of obstructions. Make sure that all carpets and loose floor tiles are repaired. Travel is part of the job for many NYNEX employees. If you're on the road, at another office or hotel, check the exits, look for posted evacuation plans, and take note of the location and type of fire extinguishers. Make sure you have the local emergency numbers.
Fire drills are not a time to have fun. It's serious business, and you just have to hope that when the real thing happens, they would react, and react in the correct way. If you have seen death by fire, which I have, you would really know that it's not a time to fool around. It's serious business.
We hope you'll never be caught in a fire, never be placed at such risk, never have to feel that kind of fear. But you should know how to handle yourself if it ever does happen. So let's walk through the steps now.
Does anyone smell smoke?
If you smell smoke, don't panic. If possible, call 911 or the fire department and activate the building alarm system immediately. Don't assume that the building alarm is connected to the fire department. Once the alarm is activated, your building's fire warden should be on the scene to guide the evacuation. If for whatever reason you don't see the warden or an alternate, follow the evacuation plan. That's why it's so important for every individual to know the evacuation plan, the exits, and all the procedures. Use the primary or secondary exit. If you're walking downstairs, hold the handrails. Never use the elevator unless fire department personnel direct you to. If someone is trapped in an elevator, notify the fire department or police. If someone is badly injured, or if a physically challenged coworker needs more help than the buddy system provides, notify the fire department or police personnel. Do not attempt to carry an injured person out by yourself. Once you're outside the building, go to the predetermined assembly areas or follow the directions of the fire warden. It's important to remain in these groups until a head count can be taken to establish how many people may still be inside the building. Never attempt to re-enter a burning building. The fire department will continue to search through all parts of the building, looking for people who are trapped.
Anybody in here? Fires happen any place, anytime, when you least expect it. You never know when it's going to happen, and you always have to be prepared.
They're the simple tools you've been using for years. No one would think to call them weapons. But there they are, all around you. Sharp points and edges, things that can pierce, cut, and slice, and other objects that lie in your path, waiting to trip you up. You can't be constantly on the lookout for all the hazards that might be lurking, but you can be aware. Make it a habit to periodically check out your work environment. Here's some of the things to look for. Let's start at the most basic level, the floor. The first thing to remember, both in and out of the office, don't run or rush. Also, look where you're going. Simple rules, but they'll help to cut out a whole lot of accidents. The next thing to look for is the condition of the floor or ground. If you're outside, is it wet or icy? Are there slippery patches hiding under the snow? Are you walking on gravel or cracked pavement, steps, slopes, or uneven ground? If there are handrails outside, use them. And on ice or snow, walk on rougher surfaces and lean slightly forward. If you see hazards like ice, cracked pavement, or loose debris, notify your manager or the building manager. Once you're inside, look for polished floors or floors that are wet from spills or mopping. One moment's inattention can have painful consequences. Oof. If you see a spill, make sure it's cleaned up. If a floor is wet, barricades should be put around it. Look also for ripped carpets or loose floor tiles, and be aware of changes in flooring, such as carpet to a polished surface. If you can't avoid slippery flooring inside or out, hold on to the railings or walls if they're available. keep your hands free to protect yourself if you fall. If you're using stairs, inside or outside, check out the condition of the steps. Are they steep, wet, uneven, or damaged? All steps should be kept free of debris, and interior stairwells should be well lit. Again, don't run or rush. Always hold the handrail. This guy's lucky he didn't break his leg. If your building has elevators, don't try to stop a closing door with your hand. If your building has escalators, hold the handrail, use caution, and watch your step getting off and on. The same obstructions that will trip you during a fire evacuation will get in your way on any other day, too. For your general safety, keep your work area clear of exposed wiring, extension cords, debris, stacks of paper, and open file drawers. Furniture and equipment should be in its place, not overlapping into walkways. Supplies should be neatly and properly stored. For example, store pencil points down. One key element of safety awareness is your ability to be alert and think clearly. Personal conditions like fatigue or drowsiness can compromise your ability to see a hazard and react to it. Your chair was made for sitting. Don't stand on it, tip it back, or lean too far out of it. Don't use it as a means of transportation for yourself or anything else. And before you sit in it, make sure it's where you think it is. Always use the proper tool for the job. For example, staples should be removed with a staple remover, not a letter opener. And letters should be opened with a letter opener, not scissors or a screwdriver. To prepare yourself for dealing with small injuries, know where the first aid kits are and make sure they're supplied. You can avoid serious back injury by following some basic rules about reaching, lifting, and carrying. When reaching for a high object, such as a shelf or a lighting fixture, use a ladder or step stool if necessary. Before using the ladder, inspect it to make sure that there are no loose rungs or hardware and that it's steady on its feet. If you're reaching for a heavy object, hand it down to another person. If you're using a ladder, look down and dismount carefully. If you can reach the object without a ladder, keep your torso straight and reach with both arms equally extended. Reaching with one arm or a twisted torso can result in disc injury, especially if you're lifting a heavy object. Inspect the object you plan to lift. If it's wrapped or tied, make sure that it's secure. Look for sharp edges. Gauge the weight. Get as close to the object as possible. Get a firm footing with your feet apart, body weight equally balanced. Keep your back straight and use both arms. If the object is on the floor or a lower surface, such as a chair, don't attempt to lift it by bending your back. Instead, bend your knees until you reach the right level, grasp the package with both hands, and rise by straightening your legs. This way, your leg muscles will bear the bulk of the weight, protecting your back. Never twist your body when lifting. Instead, move your feet and turn your entire body. Never attempt to lift an object from the floor when you're seated. Your days are too busy to worry about the safety of your environment. Learn what to look for. Learn the procedures. It will save you time in the long run. And it may save you from injury. It may even save your life.